All right, Jackie, I am doing this actually first time I've ever recorded a session to send to a client. So this will be exciting. I wanted to send this to you now because I did not want it to be dependent upon you finding time for this session because it's going to be really important, especially at the very back end. This is going to be really fun and exciting to implement the things that we're doing. I'm going to keep it short, hopefully underneath an hour for sure. And then I am gonna, ship this off to you. So the last time that we stepped off, we were talking about the foundations, the vocal foundations, and we want to get into the archetypes and understanding what all these archetypes are. And the first thing we want to understand is what an archetype is. You can imagine this as being a type of person, a specific person, an image, an idea of a person. And we are always acting in that way, expressing kind of like an idea of someone, who somebody is. So, for example, somebody that I really like is Tony Robbins. And this guy has a really big, booming voice, a huge body, big gestures, and just powerful, powerful presence and powerful words. Really love that. So sometimes when I'm speaking, I imagine Tony Robbins and I try to think, okay, what is Santana's version of Tony Robbins and what is that going to look like? And we're going to figure out these archetypes here. But the fun part is you're going to figure out exactly what those types are, or what the archetypes are for you, and special ones that you're going to want to emulate, and how exactly do we emulate. So that stuff we'll do later together, so don't worry about that much right now, but we want to get into the general archetypes today. So first one is what we would call the motivator archetype. The goal of this person is to inspire. We want to get people really motivated and fired up and hyped up for whatever it is that they're trying to get them to do. One way that we can do this is to increase our rate of speech, kind of in the way that I'm speaking right now. We talked about staccato versus legato styles of language. When I'm speaking in legato, it's very flowy. When I'm speaking in staccato, it's very abrasive and it's very impactful when I do that. So the motivator is going to be much more legato and flowy and faster, and we're going to have much more open facial expressions. When I want to motivate somebody, I really want to get them going, and I'll get my whole body to buy into the things that I'm saying. And this helps to keep them engaged, and it also increases dopamine in the audience. We want high levels of energy, 7 or above when it comes to this, and we want to be moving with purpose. This is where our gestures become so fucking important. We can't repeatedly use the same gestures the entire time, because if I use the same gesture the entire time, you can see even now it's deadening its effect. Whereas if I slowly and over time choose to pick my gesture, it'll have significantly more impact. And ultimately, this is what we're trying to do the entire time. You can see I was varying the gestures as we go along, and we can move these and play with them, and it becomes really fun because you're really just, you're acting out all these things, and we're gonna do a session, and there's a special activity that I think you're really gonna love that uses all this stuff. So when we think of the motivator, I think of Tony Robbins. You want to think of any motivational speaker. I would love for you to actually shoot me back what it is that comes to mind when you think of the motivator archetype. And an important thing to understand is that just like when we vary our voice and we vary our gestures and we vary our expressions, when we vary the archetypes in a talk or in interactions, then it increases its impact. If I stay motivated the entire time, it deadens its effect. It becomes very boring. It becomes really, anytime something becomes the default, it just loses attention, it loses attraction. There's ways to use it effectively, but this is just kind of a rule that I want you to understand, is that when something becomes the default, it deadens its impact. So again, like the gesture, if I use the same gesture every time, if I use the same monotonous voice, even if I use the same loud voice the entire time, it deadens its effect. So from motivator, we move into educator. And this one, the goal is it's to inform, it's to teach, it's to provide new insight. And here is where I want to I want to decrease the rate of speech. It's crazy. I literally read educator and I immediately began speaking this way. When I want to teach someone, you'll see, even when I'm doing it with you, I slow down because it gives the audience time to process what it is that I'm saying. And I get to be much more clear, and you can see I use the pause there. I become much more clear with what I'm doing. It also gives me time to think about what it is that I'm teaching, or rather what I'm going to be saying or teaching. So again, we want to decrease that rate of speech. The more complex the structure or the idea, the concept that I'm explaining or I'm teaching to somebody, the more processing time it requires from the brain. So the more time I want to give in between my sentences, in between my words. Obviously, we know that it does increase impact, and it also does increase processing time, which is a crucial thing if you want people to really hang on what it is that you're saying and truly understand. Slowing down gives them that opportunity. I'll send you a video on somebody that does this so fucking well. It's actually the way that I created the entire vocal archetype on my own. I'll send it to you after this. Actually, I gotta make a note, otherwise I'll fucking forget that for sure. Send lawyer. No, he's not a lawyer, he's in finance. So we got the, still in the educator. Increasing the number of pauses, matter-of-fact pitch. So we want to take that pitch and turn it down at the end of the sentence. When I do that, it's the opposite of turning it up. And that makes it sound like I'm curious, or it's a question, or I'm uncertain. So when we're using the tone of curiosity, that's an effective thing to do. But when we want to develop authority, and we want to have impact, we turn it down. And when I turn it down, and I add the pause, it's like, it's a highlighter, it's a verbal highlight. It really makes that thing fucking slap, as you can imagine here. The thing about the next thing is on the movements, the gestures. We want to kind of minimize that, and we want to speak with smaller movements, especially with the bigger gestures. Because my teacher says, I actually took this note, my teacher says that it creates visual clutter. And if I'm doing this the entire time and I'm constantly teaching this way, there is an effective way to teach. Again, we're always learning tools, not rules. But he told me that it can create visual clutter when I'm using too many gestures. So when I can speak more slowly and I turn down my pitch at the end of my sentences, and I add the pause, and I only use gestures when they really matter, it increases the ability to teach. And really what we're doing, I'm understanding this now as I'm doing it. It's just fucking, everything we do is meta. When I do this, there's less stuff for me to think about, and there's more thought for me to think about the words I'm saying, and there's less things for you to think about with the gestures and things like this. So we want to keep it minimal and hyper-focused on the lessons that we're teaching. And you can still use the gestures more effectively, but two things about this, it's crazy because I'm figuring this out now, is you want to use smaller gestures. When I'm really trying to motivate, I'll use big ones. And this elbow to hip or elbow to side shows us this is a big gesture. When my arms are out here and I'm taking up more space, versus when I'm here, it seems much smaller. It fits on this camera, and it's also less distracting when I do this. Also, resting positions. We'll talk about resting. What do? I don't know what to do with my hands when I'm talking. Resting positions. We'll talk about that later. So when I think about the educator, I think university lecture. And actually, when I'm thinking about the educator, I really think about this fucking dude that I'm going to send the video to about. You don't got to watch the whole video. I recommend it, but you don't have to watch the whole video to get the impact of how this guy speaks. So I think about somebody who's a high-level professor or coming to a university to lecture to a bunch of students that are already becoming experts in their field. And you'll see in this video, if you watch it, that there's still some variance in the archetypes. The next one is coach. This is one you'll be using a whole lot, one that I use often. I use all of these often. The goal of the coach is to guide and to instruct. Still, we want to have a higher volume, 7+ on this one. And this is much more staccato. So when I'm coaching somebody, I want them to understand what it is that I'm saying. Jackie, I need you to listen to the things that I'm talking about now. You can see this is much more instructional and it invites you to pay attention. You can imagine that the tone is also different, and if you were speaking to an employee and they really needed to pay attention to what it is that you're saying, you'd use the coach. Strong body language. This is where the hand gestures become really fucking critical. Pointing Something we generally want to avoid, I think we've talked about this, a better way to do that is with the, somebody called it a baby bird egg or the laser pointer, or like waving our hand or pointing like this. Knife hands are a little bit more effective when you really want to get somebody's attention, but you want to make sure that this is strict and punchy, not only with the gestures, but also with the language. So when I'm coaching, I need to make sure that what I'm doing has impact. So it's almost like I'm highlighting every single word when I speak with that staccato language or that staccato melody. So consider this when you're really trying to get a point across. When I think of coach, I actually think of a coach that I used to have. So I think football coach. And again, with each one of these, I want you to think about what it is who comes to mind for you and what that person is. I would like for you to share with me each of these, whether we do it on our next call or you can do it on Telegram. Either way is fine. The next these are the ones that I started to expand on. So the previous ones were what I was taught, but these are the ones that I like to use. There's the friend, and this is the goal of the friend is to connect. It's conversational and it's bright. That's the best way I could describe the tone. It's bright. And it should be natural, and it should not be like a meeting. This is something that people fuck up all the time, especially when we're meeting somebody else. Later on, when we talk about networking, the principle there is don't make it weird. We always want to act like somebody's already our friend, because that has this big cycle of emotions in us, and it creates emotions in the other person. But it should feel natural and fun. So think about the way that you and I speak, or the way you speak with your friends, or anything like this. Hopefully the way that you're speaking with these ladies here in Morocco. There's lots of melody. There's relaxed body language. And it's just more fun this way. It's more natural. It's less, I guess the best way I would describe it, it's flowy. It's flowy with the body language. And I do whatever it is that I'm doing. Imagine the way that you speak with your best friends and start to observe how you come alive when you're around people that you love, that you really care about, and you're like best, brightest self with. Start paying attention to that. Start paying attention to how they are with you, because you probably picked up some of their traits, some of their habits, and you'll get a better idea of what the archetype of the friend looks like. This is where it's good to use non-words and filler words, and this is where I would start throwing in things like, or people don't care, and it's natural. Sometimes people can feel more comfortable when other people are using filler words. And this is a great way. This is an archetype that you can, when we get to sales and persuasion, then we're going to use this more specifically. But this is a good way to develop rapport. If I want to build trust and comfort and friendliness with somebody, then I'm going to use that. Now, we don't always want to stay in friend mode when we're in a sales position, but it's an effective way to start a conversation. But we'll talk about framing later. When I think of this, I think of actually Megan. I literally wrote this when I fucking made this document. I think of Megan, and I think about how I behave when I'm around her, how I speak when I'm around her, and it makes it pretty easy to follow along. A big piece of this is vulnerability. Now, that is, opening ourselves up and being who we are and knowing that we will be received well on the other side. And it doesn't even actually matter how they receive us. That's a whole other thing. But we have to understand that vulnerability begets vulnerability. We can't expect somebody to do something without us sharing first. This is where match plus one comes in again. I'm going to share something, and I gauge, did they receive it well? Did they also share back? Okay, good. Now we're in level playing ground. I'm going to go match plus one, take it up a notch. Did they receive that? Bop, bop, bop. We're looking good. And that's how we get into really deep, meaningful connections in conversation. I wrote this again, not certain why, probably just to iterate how fucking important it is. When we stick to one archetype, it becomes less effective. So we want to be able to flow through all of these different things when the situation calls for it. The next one is another Santana original. I called it, I think I shared this one with you. It's the interviewer. Sean Evans, Oprah Winfrey, me, A Good Date. These are all really great things that I imagine great interviews to be. The goal is to light them up. Jackie, when we're meeting somebody, we want them to feel like they are fucking so special, like not the spotlights on them, but they're on the big couch, the camera's on them. We want to make them shine, and we want to make them feel really fucking good about just being who they are and let them know that they're special. And really, we want to find what makes them special. We want to go on a fucking treasure hunt with this person and figure out what makes them fucking interesting, what lights them up, what are they passionate about, what are they extraordinary at. And when we can do that well, we immediately create buy-in and trust and rapport with that person. And also, you get to learn from that person. This is one of my favorite things about using the interviewer archetype, is because it's to their benefit to feel good, and it's to my benefit to learn, as well as to create connection. But when you can talk to subject matter experts, think about somebody who you're intimidated by, who's really fucking good at their job, or you really want to learn from. When you can use the interviewer thing, interviewer archetype effectively, it helps them to feel like, oh wow, I am cool, I am interesting, and they're excited to share. They're excited to share their wisdom, their knowledge. Dude, there's shit that I've learned that would have required decades of experience in any given industry, and these people just give it to me voluntarily. Like, they're excited to give it to me. Now imagine every single fucking expert that you've ever met in your life is excited to give you their wisdom. When you can use the interviewer archetype effectively, this is what happens. It's a light back and forth tone, curious, affirming, and non-judgmental. Anything that we say, we want to remove why, but, how from our language, because this generally creates some sense of resistance in that person. We always want to, when somebody says something, we always want to affirm first and say, oh, wow, that sounds like this. Ooh, that makes me think of this thing. Oh, when you said that, it reminded me of this. That sounds like pop, 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 pop. And then I can go into an I statement or a sharing statement. We always want to acknowledge what they said first. Wow, that's incredible, man. Bop, 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 bop. And then I can go into sharing. Because if it's just, you say something, Jackie did this, and I say, I did this, you did that. It's just I, and that doesn't necessarily create the most welcoming environment for people to share. Interested body language. We talked about charisma. We want to be leaning into this person, really focusing on them. We want to be reactive, actively engaged with our expressions. We want to feel what it is that they're saying and let those things come out naturally in our body. You basically want to teach or treat these interactions like a meditation and really focus on their words and the way that it makes you feel in your body. Don't worry about responding. Don't worry about anything else. Just think, or just be with them and really be there with that person. And it makes, this is a mindfulness practice. It's literally increasing your attention ability, as well as increasing your ability to connect with this person. Because when you're actually listening, they feel it and they feel this connection. Asking, I think of great podcast hosts, Joe Rogan, Sean Evans, Oprah Winfrey, asking great questions. This is a whole fucking other thing. But we'll get to asking questions later. We may have touched on them a bit. There's always affirmation. There's always curiosity. We can also expand on questions before asking more, and sharing also helps to keep this fun as an interplay, because we don't want to feel like it's an interrogation. We're just like, who are you? What did you do? What do you like? What are your values? Bop, 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 bop. That's not so fun to answer. The next, next one is poet or storyteller. The goal of this one, Jackie, is intrigue. When I'm telling a great story, I want you to pay attention. Because when I can do this, I get everybody drawn into every word that I'm saying, and they hang on my voice. And when I can do this with a whole room of people, all eyes are on me. And it's fucking exciting. You're on stage. It could be at the dinner table. It could be fucking like on the date. It could be meeting, especially when you're networking and you're meeting new people and you do this one well. This is how you get a ton of buy-in from other people. They're just like, this is the big piece of charisma. People just say, I want to be around that. That person, what we're really doing is actually creating dopamine. So with the poet storyteller, the goal is intrigue, to get people to be really interested in, they're hanging on our words. The melody and the pitch, long, drawn-out words, and shortening length of speech, almost sing-song. We want to go bop, bop, bop. So I'm telling a story. Sometimes it's going to look like this. And then when I get to a really important part, I'm going to let that shit hang. I'm going to build that dopamine. So when I hit that punchline, it slaps. I fucked up that gesture. Fun thing about this is you get to play it, and you just get better as you go along. The I already did this. That's crazy. When you practice this stuff, it comes out so natural. Like I'm teaching it back to you, but you'll see that I don't even think about this stuff anymore. You'll get to this level too. Engaging eye contact. When I'm talking to people, I want to be looking in every single person's eyes and drawing them into my world. This is the entire goal. This becomes really fun when you do this. You're engaging with the eye contact. You're moving your eyes around the room. Body language has to match. It has to show the feelings of the words. And you, when you're telling, you want to feel the feelings of your story, almost as if you're reliving what it is that you're doing. Because when you can do this, other people detect that and they experience it with you. It's the power of body language. 80% of our communication is nonverbal. Express those feelings with your body. Think of storyteller around a campfire. For me, Strider lurking in the dark at the Prancing Pony, if you've ever watched or read Lord of the Rings. Someone trying to, meeting a stranger, and they're trying to lure you into an adventure. Maybe one of your friends is doing this too. The next is seductress. This is to, I've used this not only to like actually seduce, but also to, there's two ways, to draw somebody in and also to calm them down. You have this thing in your body called mirror neurons and co-regulation. You're always co-regulating. It's a better way to understand it. You're always matching vibes with other people. They'll pull you up, they'll pull you down, and you can also pull people up or pull them down. Match plus one is one way to do this. And one way that we can utilize the seductress energy is with our melody and pitch. We start strong, we have more resonance. We'll talk about how to build resonance with your voice. It's not just a male thing. Resonance creates power in your voice. We start to use our diaphragm effectively. And then we change that up, and we also use breath in our voice. And we can use both of these things effectively. It sounds so much more honestly sexy. Almost to cracking, especially when I bring it down like this. And when I enunciate the consonants more, it can sound so much more appealing. I forgot, there's a way that we can move. We'll talk more about actually using our voice later. Fuck, there's a lot of meat here. We'll talk more about moving our breath through different parts of our body to make it sound certain ways. But here I would use closer body language, intense eye contact, both while speaking and while listening. This is not always a sexual thing. It can be, but it doesn't have to be. When I'm speaking to somebody, I want to focus on one eye. I don't want to flit back and forth between two. Oh, I should have took these off. I don't want to flit back and forth between two. I want to stay focused on one thing, because when we can do this, it creates an intense sense of engagement. You may be feeling this right now, but it becomes really powerful, and it makes people, not only do they feel like we're paying attention to them, but they begin to pay attention to us. Like we're constantly mirroring with everybody else. Body language is more focused on our hands and our face. I'll keep things like this, and I'll speak in this way. I'll keep my hands, my face close together. There's also behaviors called preening, where we'll try to make ourselves subconsciously look prettier, more attractive for the other person. And they automatically will begin to like us more, actually, if we do that. It's crazy the way that our fucking brain works. You start acting the same way, or acting a certain way, and other people will immediately begin to feel that way. Especially when you start to use a ton of cues. Again, different types of body language, expressions, voice, all these things, and everything's moving in the right direction. The effect that you have on people is magic. It's nothing short of that. Facial expressions are crucial because this is where their attention's primarily going to be. We really want to focus on subtle and use, especially in our eyes. When I can squint or I can think a little bit more pensively, it draws more attention to that. So I want to stay, I'm bringing it closer so you can actually see my face. But when we do this, it brings all the attention to our face. We want to just be aware of what it is that we're doing there. Transition. When we transition from archetypes, it's a scale. So it goes like this. You don't go from a 10 friend to a 10 coach to a 10 seductress. That would be fucking weird. That'd be like, hey, Jackie, how's it going? You need to listen to what I'm saying. And I really want you to pay such close attention. That's a lot. We'll slowly move through each one. We go from a 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, all the way through as we need to go. We're not always going all the way to 1, and we're not always going to 10, but there's a flowing that goes in between. If you go bop, bop, like 10, 10, 10, it sounds weird, fucking weird, and it sounds manipulative. Like it becomes very clear that you're doing something odd. They may not know what it's doing, but our nervous system can detect that and it feels very uncomfortable. Yeah, so a practice with this would be trying to, try doing a 10 coach and then slowly bring it down over the course of a minute, and then try going to a 1 friend and then go up to 10 again and just start meandering. And again, we'll talk later about building your own archetypes, but I do want you to start thinking about archetypes that you want to emulate, people that you like to, like sometimes it's even fictional characters that we're emulating. It's really fun. And the next piece is a little, I want to actually be on a call with you for this. So I'll cut it there. So we've got our archetypes, we've got the set, the ones that I was taught, the ones that I've created, and I want you to start creating your own, or at least begin thinking about different archetypes, how you've used these, have you ever used these, what do they look like, what do they feel like? And this is the thing, what I'm about to tell you is really the whole reason that I'm sending you this now while you're in Morocco, and I'm not waiting for you to book a call. I still want you to be able to book a call this week, but I want to get this to you fucking ASAP, as early as possible in this trip. And this is the reason. Because you're in a new place with brand new people, doing something completely new. Everything around you, your food, the smells, everything is new. And when we're in a new location, it invites a new way of being, Jackie. So when we're doing this, what I want you to focus on, spend some time and really think about this. Think about Jackie 2.0, the Jackie that we're moving into. Because she's someone that goes on fucking motorcycle trips through Morocco. I want to be Jackie 2.0. And think about, how does she speak? How does she engage with locals? What does she feel in her body? What are the thoughts that she thinks? How does she behave? How does she do all these different things? What does she feel in her body? What are the thoughts that she thinks? What are the things that she says? Is she funny? Is she confident? Is she bop, bop, bop? Play a little bit of word association. And what you're going to do is develop just this part, Jackie 2.0 archetype, the woman that we're becoming. Well, the woman that you're becoming. I'm not becoming a woman, but the woman that you're becoming. Play with the word association. Think about how she speaks, how she thinks, what she does with her body, how she interacts with strangers, how she haggles if you get into that, how she orders her food, how she does fucking anything. And I want you to start to embody this archetype. Because you're in a new place, nobody fucking knows you. You can be the dude with the newest, strangest shit ever, and nobody's gonna know. So start playing with this. Have a sense of play. Because we're gonna see what you like, and we're gonna continue embodying that when we get back home. But there's no opportunity like being in a new place, especially a new country, that gives you total freedom to be who you are, who you want to be. And other people will not have a fucking clue. So please just have as much fun with this as possible. When you're writing down the word association, you're building out the Jackie archetype. Just play with it, dude. It's going to be fucking fun. And this is my first time actually recording a course or a class. So tell me what you think, notes that you took, questions you had, also content. Did it sound like it was taught well? Was it very clear with all the different little pieces? And did you understand what questions you have? And make sure you have your homework. Again, start looking at the different archetypes, practice some of them, but the main thing is to build out and live the Jackie archetype. Enjoy the fucking trip. I still want you to book in this week. I'll talk to you soon.